Queenslander! Queenslander! Yes! We fucking did it. Yeah, no. Welcome to Footy Rants. Sorry to be biased, but I am fucking excited after last night's result. It went the way that I sort of leaned and expected it to go. Albeit in typical, I'd hate to say it, if you're a Blue supporter, in typical Queensland fashion, we just didn't really fucking go away from what's been working for us. Let's not get too far ahead. I just want to unpack everything and break it all down. But yeah, just a gutsy win. But at the same time, I don't want to blow it out of proportion. I don't think it was necessarily a game that Queensland went out there and absolutely dominated and won. I think it was more a case of New South Wales fundamentally lost that game for themselves. So we'll flick over and get some highlights rolling. All right, sorry, away. Yeah, look, it was a great tussle early on, much like we experienced in game one. It was very physical. It probably wasn't quite as fast as game one, and I guess that probably comes off the back of those Queensland forwards standing up a little bit more and just bolstering up that middle. We see Val Holmes really got rustled up in a couple of his early carries out of trouble. But yeah, I thought the influence of Napa and Wallace in the Queensland starting side really laid the platform, which led to this first Queensland try. We see Val Holmes go into the corner there in the 9th minute. Did extremely well to stay inside the field of play. Really flirted with the sideline there, and I've since sort of seen a still shot. There's been, a little, as anything in this case, a bit of a media beat up. I'll just pause things there. That relates things back to the Jared Hayne try when they sort of turned the series around a few years back when he was just towed inside the line and ended up going on to score that magnificent try for New South Wales. So Val Holmes did something quite similar, but we see here we're leading into the New South Wales first try. So their rebuttal, which was very, very quick, so only a couple of sets later in the 14th minute. But if we actually just take this back, so apologies for those that are just listening, we're just going through the New South Wales first try. So if we bring this all the way back to this ruck, I can sort of just get the still shot. But what actually happens is, out of the back of this play the ball, we end up with with 3 players basically ineffective around the ruck. When you're defending on your own line, you really only want to be defending with one marker. And Josh Maguire sort of got caught in no man's land. You could see people that were talking to him from the outside edge that were trying to pull numbers across the other side of the ruck. So just where I've got the cursor now. So we've got Maguire there, I believe that is. So he gets stuck in no man's land. So you're not defending anyone there. And then we've got a sort of pissy attempt at a second marker. I'm pretty sure that's Jared Wallace there, which then, because we're so short on numbers, this right edge Queensland defence is going to be forced to jam in really, really hard. And we just see Cooper Cronk sort of just stalls a little bit in the line, but then Chambers jams in. But when they jam in like that, Gagai was just a little bit late in chiming in. So Gagai definitely had the opportunity to shut down the play. He was just a little bit late in reacting to Chambers. So if we just let this play through now. So we see there, Cronk gets caught on his feet because he's the one who ends up actually trying to attempt the tackle on Hayne. So yeah, he gets caught flat-footed and then makes the decision he's just got to try and play across and try and cover the centre and winger that have jammed in Chambers and Gagai. So that was really good structured play and just simple identification. And then this Maloney that went straight through the line. That's just classic Maloney. He just beat Glasby on the outside. You see, he just draws him in. And then Pierce, I keep saying Pierce. Maloney's got good shape out the back, which just holds up a few defenders. And it looked like live that they created some good play to baffle Glasby a little bit. But he just gasses him on the outside, just runs straight around him. And Chambers doesn't really find himself involved in the defensive play at all. So that was a little bit disappointing. You can sort of see him shaking their heads a little bit. And then this is the next try, Trbojevic, straight on the field. This actually got me excited for Trbojevic. I know I've been fairly critical of his performances probably over, well, not since I've just started Footy Rants, but even just in passing, since he sort of come onto the scene at Manly. I just wasn't. I guess my critique of him leading even into this Origin series was, he's going to rattle up some stats and you'll be like, oh shit, I didn't realise he actually got through that much work. He was sort of a behind the scenes sort of guy. I understand that he is quite influential in a Manly side, but you've got to understand who's at Manly at the moment. Like, there's not, it's not a team that's absolutely stacked with superstars. Yes, there are some superstars in the team, but they're not absolutely stacked. Whereas he came onto the field there, and that ball play was phenomenal. To have the guts to come straight on the field, know your role, especially when the game's already that old, and they're still sort of sorting each other out. They've got a lead; they don't need to necessarily do anything overly risky, especially around the middle of the paddock there. It was really, really gutsy to see him come on the field and execute in the fashion that he did. Then I dare say in this highlights package we're about to see some of the defence. So we got another play from Trbojevic there, so that was massive. So he was super, super impactful for the Blues at the back end of this first half. He makes that tackle, and then Dugan makes this one straight off the back. Great little sweet play with the Cowboys edge pairing in Thurston and Cooper. And Michael Morgan, he missed out a little bit at the end of the first half there. This was probably, we're moving towards some footage now of Gagai getting dragged over the touchline. Him and Chambers probably got caught a little bit guilty, I'll just pause it there again, of running a little bit too much over his lines and not really, Gagai, he ends up getting that last, what ended up being the winning try. He comes back under like he should, and he scores another good one coming back under on this try. So both of his roles here, he performs extremely well, but I felt that Gagai at other times didn't hold shape as well as he could have, and I realise that's going to come with time. And whilst he is developing himself now, I believe he's got 6 tries in 5 Origin appearances, so not a bad start to an Origin career for that young fella. But I'd just like to see a little bit more faith shown. Chambers is no slug, but it was good to see the push and support that you see from the Queenslanders here. The thing that impressed me most, it wasn't only that you end up seeing Cronk, Chambers, and eventually Gagai on that edge support, but I've just got, for those listening along now, I've just got the still shot paused of when Maguire's about to make this break for the Queensland try that brings it back to 16-12. But it's the bodies that are trailing on the inside that not necessarily have any right to be there, and that is Smith, Slater, and Thurston, 1, 2, 3, and that's just the influence. That's what impressed me most about this try, was that the fact that those 3 guys with one hunting around the ball. So he let it play out. Now they're all still trailing back on the inside, and Gagai still had some work to do off that. He absolutely gassed those forwards up the middle. I know it's Trbojevic and Frizzell that you're beating, but you sort of expect those things. And now we're seeing Jared Hayne have the second half that was. Sort of spilled some footies there. We'll go and have a look at those influential things, and now we're seeing the winning try. I don't think the man who threw this pass, if we go back, I'm hoping they'll replay it again. If not, we'll just scooch back. We'll go back there. The pass from Morgan was awesome. Oh, this thing will bloody go for me. Sorry, guys. But just watch the way Morgan just draws these guys in. That flick pass back on the inside absolutely had Hayne bamboozled. It was like he definitely sold Hayne that he was just going to try and barge his way over into the corner by himself. And he was almost falling as he threw it. It was great. And then this there, I think every fan of the game just knew, even though as a Blues fan you're probably willing it not to, that Thurston was always going to step up and smoke this. That's just what he does, you know what I mean? That's just absolutely Thurston to a T. So yeah, and we see the celebrations on Thurston's face as we know now that we will come back up here to Queensland at Suncorp Stadium. 18-16 win to Queensland, and we'll have it out to see who becomes the 2017 Origin champion. So now we'll flick over and have a bit of a look at some of the stats, and it very much reads the way the scoreboard played out. A very, very tight game. 3 tries apiece, just 1 conversion. The difference, possession was basically even, 51% in favour of New South Wales. Completions were pretty much neck and neck again, 81% to New South Wales, 78% to Queensland. Running metres were pretty much the same, all runs just about the same. New South Wales had a slight advantage with kick metres, not that that really means too much. Queensland were forced to make a few more tackles, and that probably sums up just where everything led to this stat here. The goal line dropouts, 3-1 in favour of Queensland. Just that extra little bit of pressure that Queensland was able to build made the difference. I just want to sort of touch on a few, I guess, key moments where I felt momentum shifted a lot, and we'll just flick back over to some player stats. I just want to scroll down and just make sure. Yeah, it was this one here. Jared Wallace only got 22 minutes. Haven't heard that he was injured or anything like that. I could be wrong, and I do apologise if that is the case. But as far as I'm aware, he was not injured after he got pulled off. So when like Napa and Wallace, they laid such a good platform. And the fact that Wallace plays, anywhere from 60 to 70 minutes in the front row, week to week for the Titans, I don't understand why you pull him off that early. Especially when you end up going and putting Napa back on for well over 30 minutes. And that's not taking anything away from Dylan Napa. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal again in his second stint. You definitely knew when he came back on the field for his second stint. He was great. And it definitely alleviated that issue. I felt a little bit sorry for Glasby. His 25 minutes, probably just a couple of those lapses of not even concentration. I guess it's just speed of the game and developing your skills around a new scenario. It would have been, I'm sure, if you have an interview with Glasby now, he'd definitely tell you that one of the first things that he'd say is how much faster it is than Clubland. But he was still fair. What do you got there? 8 carries, 72 metres, and 21 tackles in 25 minutes. So he's almost averaging a tackle a minute on top of hit-ups. So, you can't fault his work rate. He definitely went hard, only 1 missed tackle. But yeah, sort of just got beaten on the outside on a couple of those occasions, and he was sort of involved in that Trbojevic lead up to their other try as well. So he was involved in a few defensive errors. It'll be interesting to see whether, the Queensland pick and stick mentality applies now that they've gone out and won the second game. So it'll be interesting to see if they replicate what New South Wales have done after game 1. So yeah, that was the first big influential momentum shift, I thought, was when they brought Napa and Wallace off at the same time. I thought they were both doing a great job, and whilst it probably would have sat a little bit better with me that they just pull Napa off. Like that's the role that he's used to playing, much like Woods did with the Blues. He only had that sort of 20-odd minute first hit out, but I would have left Wallace on there for longer. I thought you probably could have got it at least 30 to 35 minutes out of him before you thought about dragging him, because work rate was good as far as defense goes. 20 minutes, 15 tackles, but yeah, perhaps you see he only had 2 carries. So whether he was brought off because his involvement wasn't quite high enough, I'm not too sure. So yeah, that was the first big swing. The second one was, if we sort of scroll back up just so we're getting a little bit interactive, was Jared Hayne. When he failed to pass that ball to Morris on that left edge. That was a big change. Just because I had them on the back foot, and then it sort of led to the bombardment that Queensland then had on the New South Wales line. So yeah, I think they'll look back in hindsight and game review and say, we can't fault anyone but ourselves, really. New South Wales very much had that at their peril to take that game. I didn't think that the influence of Maloney and Pearce when things weren't going their way was quite as influential as it was on continuing just to build momentum like they did in game 1. Not that they played bad by any means. I thought they were both still very, very competent. But yeah, I think after containing the forward pack a lot better, the Queensland side contained New South Wales a lot better. Fafita was definitely not as influential as he was in game one. Was still solid, but yeah, you can see there that the numbers. Aaron Woods was still massive, ran up for over 100 meters again. Cordner was massive as captain's knock should be, but yeah, just contained. Everyone else a little bit better. Clemmer, massive, 116 carries, 174 meters, 14 tackles. I think they did that. The Blues, if they can utilize Wade Graham just a little bit more effectively, more so in the game structure and just letting him be able to pop up and take some pressure off the halves, that will enable the halves to carry more time. If they start utilising Graham here and there, it then just creates decisions that Queensland needs to make in defence. It just puts the defence in two minds. So I would like to see that in game three. Just have a bit more faith and share that load a little bit more than they did in game two. The final, I don't think you'd say it was a momentum shifter, but just the fact that once they got it to 16-12, the Queensland side, and there was still 17 minutes to go, I sort of turned to my mate that I was watching the game last night, who's a Blue supporter, and I very much love watching footy with Rhino because we keep things very objective. Like, doesn't matter if both our club teams are playing each other or we're just watching a game of footy. Like, we watch the game of footy for the game of footy, whilst we do support the team and happy with the success that happens. You could just tell. I turned to him at that 17th minute. I'm like, mate, they're trying to defend this lead. They're trying to defend a 4-point lead now, and there's still 17 minutes to go. They've sort of shut up shop. And I think it was a little bit evident in the post-match interview that the commentary team had with Josh Dugan. Said, they gained a heap of confidence out of the two defensive plays that himself and Trbojevic had made at the end of the first half, and probably got a little bit carried away with themselves and how that big attacking raid played out during the 50-odd minute mark for New South Wales. And yeah, they just sort of put the cue in the rack a little bit, and they have so much attacking prowess. Like, look at that back five, like Tedesco, Morris, Dugan, Hayne, Ferguson. Like, there's points on offer there. Not to mention when you've got Cordner on an edge and Frizzell who can float up on an edge. So I just don't think that they utilised those guys quite as well as they could have. I thought for Queensland, Cohen Hess, even though he only sort of got 19 minutes, I thought it was a little bit too long. Like, I know the game was in the balance, but I would have got him out there a little bit earlier. I thought Papali was a little bit flat when he first came on. Sort of took him a little while to get into the game and missed a few crucial tackles. And then a few defensive errors from Morgan early on and a couple of drop footies. But, geez, you can't really fault him when he's able to come up with a play like that, especially playing out of position for his current role anyway. He actually, if my memory serves me correctly, did play right centre for the Mackay Cutters when they won the Queensland Cup a few years back. So, not completely foreign territory, but geez, he really did do a job there. So yeah, I think Glasby's probably the only one in question. I know a few people have already been critical of Val Holmes and his performance. Obviously scored that magnificent try, but I think you see what Corey Oates brings in his physicality. Whilst he does have an error in him coming out of coming out of that red zone, he just got bashed a little bit early on. I think he very much realised pretty quickly that, oh fuck, this is what Origin footy's like. I'm not just going to be able to charge into anyone I want like I do in clubland and get my way 9 times out of 10. I also thought, Darius Boyd was solid in the fact that he also hadn't played in the centres for a number of years. I think I heard him say he's only played like 18 games in centres at a professional level. So yeah, across the board, it's evident now that all those selections that New South Wales sort of was like, oh, welcome to our world, having to make these decisions, like good luck, got to live and die by it. Well, it's obviously sort of it's worked. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what sort of sides we will be witnessing come Game 3. I'm very excited. I've got my tickets for Game 3. Was never going to miss Thurston's last game, but obviously now he's under that little injury cloud. All will be revealed as to whether or not he pulls on that Cowboys jersey this weekend. I highly doubt it, just the way he was nursing it. In the post-match press conference, he was, not press conference, sorry, just in interviews, was saying that there was some swelling there, but structurally it seems to be fine. So I would like to know his definition of structurally sound. I'm sure it would be different to a lot of the layman's terms, but yeah, it was a thoroughly entertaining game. I think, just based purely on the result that Queensland was able to achieve without necessarily dominating for any large periods of time. I still thought some of the shape that they were throwing at New South Wales, I was wondering whether they were going to score come that sort of last 8 minutes when they were building that pressure on New South Wales. And, well, it was enough. It was enough to get them over the line. I think now that it'll be up to the Queensland side to go away and look on how they can make that performance even better. How do they overcome those things even more? And for New South Wales, it's how do they regain that confidence that they would have taken into game one, still taking Queensland seriously, knowing that Slater and Thurston were coming back into the side. How do they overcome that big change in momentum that we've now seen in the series to go from a 28-4 victory to losing by 2 points? It's going to be interesting to see the way that they respond and the way that Laurie Daly goes about looking for that response. It's all back in New South Wales court now. They've got to come back north of the border and try and undo the fairy tale finish that's been set now for Jonathan Thurston's Origin career. As much pressure as there is on JT to perform in his last game now, there is just as much pressure on New South Wales to make sure that the fairy tale doesn't occur. So I can not wait. It can't come quick enough. I wish it was happening tonight. So yeah, that's my 2 cents worth and what I sort of noticed and was impressed by and where I thought things sort of shifted around. I'd be interested to see if you guys thought I left anyone out. I know Chambers was super influential for Queensland as well before he had to sort of go off. I guess another big momentum shift now that I sort of rehash things as I'm going on the fly was when Tedesco went off. That was a big loss, the fact that he missed that sort of back end when Queensland started to build that pressure. And whilst he was on the field when Queensland scored that final try, just the fact that they didn't have their normal fullback. I know they got 1,000 fullbacks on the side, but just that cohesion itself, it would have played its role. So yeah, bring on game 3, and more importantly, let's get excited for the next round of NRL that kicks off tomorrow night. So I think we've got the Warriors up against the Bulldogs. So we'll break all that down. We'll be back again tomorrow and have a look who's in, who's out, and who's going to perform and who's going to luck out. So I look forward to talking to you all again tomorrow. Righty, legends. Have a great day.